Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us that we can learn as well. As always, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting, or any of the old methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn, have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Mark Hartmann. He is the owner of HartmannRhodes, where he's helping people to sell their businesses that are worth between $1 and $25 million. And he started this because he had a successful eight-figure business that he sold and for 8 figures, and he wants to help other people do the same. And so we're looking forward to having you on the show, Mark. And I want to start off by asking you a question that I always love asking, which is this. If you were to start over in your business, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
Wow, that's a tough one. Well, first, thanks for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Looking forward to it for a while now, so thank you. What would I do different, right? So start with the end in mind, right? I think that's something that we learned from Dr. Covey in the Seven Habits, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's not necessarily something that most business owners think about, right? Like where's this eventually gonna go? I like to say it this way, and this sounds really crude, but I'm just gonna put it out there, right? Everyone will exit their business, whether it be vertically or horizontally,
Hmm.
right? And I
Yeah.
want everyone to exit their business vertically, right? So start with the end in mind, whatever that is to you, right? Whether
Hmm.
that be a sale to a third party, whether that be a transition internally to your management staff, or whether that be handing it off to the next generation in your family, right? I think that's such an important thing, right? That
Yeah.
that you have to start with the end in mind. And when you do start with the end in mind, a lot of things kind of line themselves up automatically.
Yeah. In theory, it's a great thing. But a lot of times when people are starting off, or even if they've been in business for a while, they could be in business for 5, 10 years and like, what is the end? Where am I going with this? What are some tips to give people to start thinking about how to think about what is the end in mind for their business? What's some directions for people that might just feel lost in even thinking about what that end might look like for them?
That's a great question as well. It's really a personal thing, right? This is very personal, very unique to each business. But, one of the things that you have to think about is what are your financial goals, right? So start with a discussion with your financial advisor and ask your financial advisor, what do you need to do to plug the gap if there is one?
Mm,
There may not be one because that'll frame up a lot. Because, look, you might be turning 65 this year and you might say, okay, time to retire. But to sustain the lifestyle in which you're accustomed to and to achieve your, post-sale goals, you may have to work till 67. That just might be the
yeah.
reality of it, right? You might also be at 65 and say, geez, I have a medical issue. I have to retire. And that may change everything as well too. So I think the first thing I tell people is start with the numbers, right? Start with the numbers and figure out what you need to retire. And that'll inevitably lead you to the next question, which I think is, what's your business worth? And it's funny, right? I ask people all the time this question. Business owners will call me, I want to sell my business. Well, tell me about your business. First question. Second question, tell me why we're having this discussion now. What's making you want to sell your business? Third question, what's your business worth? And unfortunately, I get a wide range of answers on what your business is worth, when in all reality, I'm just looking for one of two answers. One, I don't know, and that's okay. I'll help you sort that out. Or
Mm,
two, the next answer I'm looking for is, I have a valuation. It was done by so and so who's professional, and it's worth X. I don't like to hear, well, Tommy at the country club sold his business for 7 times, so I think my business is worth at least that. Well, what's Tommy do?
mm,
Tommy sells widgets. What do you do?
mm,
I own a landscaping company. What would make you think that the two
mhm.
would be correlated? They're just not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and inevitably, the first thing I think is talk to a financial advisor. Second thing is get a valuation on your business, get an appraisal done, know what your business is worth, right?
Yeah.
And kind of always know that, right? That's part of being deal ready, right?
Mm.
Because if you think about what your business is worth today, and you're thinking about an exit in 5 years, the right sellability assessment could potentially lead you down different paths to achieve even greater greater price at sale and better terms.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great advice for sure. Well, as you've grown and seen other people grow in what they're doing, because if they have an end in mind, again, whether that is to sell it or to pass it on to their management or maybe even pass it off to their kids at some point, people are wanting to grow. They're wanting this to scale, and oftentimes people can fall into that trap of just becoming salesy and spammy in the way that they approach things. What have you done to navigate that so that you're not falling into that trap?
Myself as an M&A advisor,
Yeah,
uh,
in business, yeah.
yeah, it's interesting, right? The phone rings all the time with people wanting to sell their business. You'd be surprised at how much the phone rings inbound. I found you on the internet and I want to sell my business, right?
Mm,
So I don't really do a lot of outbound reach, and that's part of my own business plan.
yeah,
As I mentioned before, I come to this as a second act, right? This is my
yeah,
second career. Built and scaled and sold a three times Inc. 5000 company for 8 figures at 42 years old and realized that I don't like golf and I need something to do every day and something that I can be really passionate about and something that'll work within my schedule, right? I volunteer for a few charities and I like to
mm,
travel, right? So I need something that I can work from anywhere, and being a business broker and M&A advisor really suits that, right? So
yeah,
um, you have to have that mindset. So people come to me. I don't really do a lot of selling,
yeah,
and it's kind of by design, right? I kind of have that red velvet rope up and I'm very particular in who I work with, right? One criteria, we have to agree on a price. Jason, if you come to me and say your business is worth 10 million and I think it's worth 1 million, I'm probably not the guy for you, right? And
yeah,
I'm going to have to tell you that up front because um, there's no sense in me trying to go down a path with you, right? I'm a firm believer also, people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
yeah,
So like is one of the most important criteria for me because as a business broker, I'm going to spend the next conservatively 6 to 18 months with you, right? If I could get it done quickly, great. If it's going to drag on because, we have to have a stop and a start with a buyer, it could be 18 months. That happens all the time.
yeah, yeah,
I have to like you. We're going to be besties. We're going to be text messaging late at night about deals. We're going to be talking early in the morning. We're going to have ups and downs. And if I don't like
mm,
you, I'm going to hate it. And I don't want to hate it. Right? I want to wake up every day and know that what I'm doing is both impactful for business owners and enjoyable for me.
yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of lessons in that. If everyone just listens to what Mark just said, there's a lot in that on how to actually not be spammy, but how to build relationships, how to position yourself, how to be just open and honest as well, as opposed to just trying to make a sell, just saying, well, I'm not the right fit for you. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. So I love that you said that, Mark. That's really, really good. One of the other things, and this might be because I know, as you said, you're in your second career, so this might be more of a question related to when you were running the business, like for your first business. We all go through problems, challenges, frustrations. It happens. It's part of building a business. Oftentimes, we can get frustrated or feel very isolated in that situation. So, I like to ask this question so that we all just realize we all go through stuff and we can learn from each other's experiences. So, having said that, what was the number one biggest challenge that you faced? It could be in any area of the business, but what's the number one biggest challenge you faced in the business, and what's the lesson that you learned from that?
It's tough, right? The M&A world is crazy, right? There's an old saying in the M&A world, which is buyers are liars, right? I think it actually started in the real estate world. But that, and I don't mean to be harsh or crass or anything about buyers because they're not all liars.
Yeah.
But it's important that you do, as an advisor representing sellers, an enormous amount of due diligence to make sure that the buyer is serious about consummating the transaction, right? Time can be wasted. And when you're dealing with business owners who are focused on retirement today, um, time is not on your side, right? So I think as an advisor, one of the lessons that I've learned the most is to make certain that I'm doing due diligence on the buyers for the benefit of my clients, and making sure, are they serious about buying a business? Do they have the means financially to buy the business? Are they gonna pull the trigger when it comes down to it? And making sure that I'm coaching the buyers to understand the expectations of the seller, right?
Mm.
And um, you know, a lot of what I do from the LOI to the closing table is psychology. It's buyer and seller psychology. Probably
Yeah.
85% of the work of an M&A advisor between LOI and closing is buyer and seller psychology. 15% is making sure the deal team is doing their job.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. So just lots of communication, being upfront, managing expectations, and getting down to the truth, from
It's
what it
tough.
sounds like.
It's
Yeah,
tough. There's a lot of questions behind the questions sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, over the next 2 to 3 years, I know that as you said, this is kind of your second career. It's something you do and you just enjoy doing. But what's the goals over the next 2 to 3 years? What would you like to achieve?
So late last year, I published a book, The Sweat Equity Payday, and quickly became a bestseller on Amazon, which was really awesome. I didn't expect that. It's been wildly overwhelming. One of my goals is to put that book in the hands of as many business owners as possible, because the book really helps business owners understand my experiences as a business owner, walking in their shoes, and
Mm,
as an M&A advisor, selling other people's businesses, to create kind of a baseline set of knowledge, so that when they go to sell their business, they have a little bit of a leg up, right? They're much more informed. They know what to expect, and they know what they can ask for and can't ask for. And I think that that's so important, right? And the things they can do along the way to make their business just a little bit more valuable and a little bit easier to sell. So my goal is to put that book into thousands of people's hands, right? And to have as many conversations with I can with business owners around the concepts in the book, to teach them, right? To teach them
mm,
about it. And the few that trickle up to the top, uh, that end up being my clients every year, will be great. I always tell people I'm never going to get the award at the Business Brokers Convention for the most transactions. It's just not what I'm looking to do.
mm.
But I may get an award for most five-star reviews, because I think that's a more important goal, is making sure that each one of the customers I work with are really happy, that I help them
Yeah.
achieve their specific goals in the transaction. Because it's not everybody likes to talk in transactions about the top number, right? Even when I talk about selling my business, right, Ethicare, right? I'm sure we can talk about the top line number, but did I tell you that I only had a 60-day transition agreement? Like,
Mm,
that's an important part to the whole equation, isn't it? I didn't
mm.
have to work for 5 years, right?
Yeah,
I just stick around for 60 days. Why? Because I built a business that thrived without me, right? I
yeah.
took my own kidnap test. It's in my book. And I made it so that I had clear workflows, and I had empowered deputies, and I had done everything that, I preach about in my book. I did it, right? So,
Mm,
I think that's part of the next step for the next few years, is to just get this out there, and make sure that business owners understand what's going to be expected of them, so that they can sell for the most amount of money on their terms, and
mm.
and exit leaving whatever legacy they want, right? Each
Yeah.
one of these decisions is very personal, right? So,
Yeah.
and I when I meet with owners, I have to understand that, right? What are your goals, and let me help you achieve them.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Well, having said that, Mark, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you or find your book? What's the best way for them to do that?
So shameless plug, the book, The Sweat Equity Paid Eggs, is on Amazon. You can find it there. And then reach out to me through my website at Hartman Rhodes, HartmannRhodes, RHODES.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. It's Hartman with two N's. You can reach out to me there and love to connect and continue the conversation.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I definitely recommend anyone that is looking to sell a business or position themselves to sell a business, definitely reach out to Mark and get in contact with him or buy the book and learn from that as well. So amazing. Thank you, Mark, so much for taking the time out today and being on the show. Really appreciate you being on. So thank you so much for that. And as a reminder to everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old ineffective methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn, have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.